We just heard a conversation about how the same parents show up at the same or at different meetings concerned about the same kids. Is there a larger societal role that needs to be fulfilled here?
There has to be a larger role. And it's not just policy, it's politics. Dealing with the world of children, child well-being is very political. And it requires, we can talk individually about all of the measures, all of the things that children need in order to move to well-being, move beyond problems. We've got to do it at a systemic level. And part of the focus of this meeting we've been having for the last 2 days is to really think about. We know what kids need. They've told us, their parents have told us, we know what it is. In order to really reap the benefit, not only for individual children, but for society, we really have to move to the policy level.
Well, and I think the important thing to think about is that there's a lot of policy out there intended to do the right thing.
Right.
It tends to focus on preventing bad things from happening rather than promoting positive things from happening. And a movement towards well-being is really thinking about the policies that promote positive outcomes rather than just seek to prevent bad things from happening. So you want to stop a fire from happening, so you create a policy. You want to stop bad things from happening for children, so you create a policy that says we're not going to abuse children anymore. Instead of saying, for abused children, we want to promote their well-being. Stopping them from being abused again is one strategy. Promoting their well-being is a different strategy, all formed in the frame of a policy.
I'm getting this notion from something we saw on Twitter, but we're Americans and we don't like people meddling in our lives. Is there a way we do this without telling parents how to parent? Or is that what we need to do?
We say we don't like people meddling in our lives. Social Security we like. Various other kinds of things that we all benefit from.
But there's nothing more personal than raising your own kids.
Absolutely, but nobody raises their kids on their own, and nobody in any socioeconomic group is able to provide all the things that a child needs for well-being. So there are things that absolutely should be only a parent's judgment for a child, but society has a stake in policies that make things better for children, for the individual children, for economic well-being for all of us.
So how do we prevent those fires you're talking about?
Well, I think, again, much of what's been talked about here so far is intervening early, preventing problems before they happen by promoting positive outcomes for children and their families. But we've also got to recognize that there are times when bad things do happen. And even in those circumstances, the way we use our resources, the way we demonstrate that we care, is by intervening effectively. And what we know today is there's an increasing body of science that says that we can get better outcomes even with the same money that we have through changes in policy, changes in practice, and changes in the way we design programs. So this is not a conversation necessarily about doing more. It's not a conversation about getting into people's business where we don't belong. It's about using the best information available to put our society on a path of success, one child at a time.
We're talking about child well-being as a movement. Is any of that taking root at the policy level?
There are things going on in St. Louis that are good, in Missouri that are good. The County Children's Services Fund that was passed a few years ago, there are new resources for kids. There are things we can cite, small policies, improvements, small improvements in preschool access. It's not enough. And I totally support what Brian says, that we can do things better with the same amount of resources. We also need more resources in order to do things at the level that we need to for children to really thrive.
I think what's interesting is that the concept of child well-being is taking root in a place where you'd least expect it in our society. That's in our child welfare system. Most people think of the child welfare system as the place where only bad things happen. And there is a movement afoot that is represented by more than 30 states, where they're specifically redesigning their systems, not to prevent the bad stuff of child welfare from happening, but instead to ensure that children and families who are engaged in the child welfare system are actually better for having been served by the foster care system.
And you know what I think is incredibly encouraging about this is we haven't talked about child well-being much in the middle classes because we do it intuitively. We think about what it is that children need. We aspire. We know our children are going to go to college. Of course they are. And they're going to have music lessons, and they're going to be in sports, and they're going to do these things that enrich. We're not just going to fight fires on behalf of our own children. So the fact that kids who are the responsibility of government and society in general are going to aspire to those things that are really beyond protection into well-being, and Brian's been a pioneer in causing this to happen. It's really raising the level to what we want for all children in our society.
And I think what's important to also recognize for the most vulnerable children, child welfare being just one example, is abuse and neglect cuts across all income categories,
Sure it does.
cuts across all races. And so to think about intervening effectively and doing it, right, promoting positive outcomes in a child welfare context means promoting positive outcomes across all income categories and all races. And again, if public systems can move in that direction in child welfare, there's no reason to believe that schools and police and fire and all of the other social investments that we make in the society can aim themselves towards promoting a positive outcome rather than simply trying to prevent a bad thing from happening.